Hey guys, Bam here, and welcome to MultiVersus University. Today we're going to be talking about 7 things that can really make MultiVersus the next big platform fighting game. Going into number 1 is game modes. Now, we do have ranked mode on the horizon. Everyone is waiting for that, and I do believe it's going to be one of the modes that will really push this game to a next level. However, of course, I do say this understanding full well that in order for rank mode to be released, we need to make sure that we have a quality netcode experience. So I do agree with the team in terms of holding off on this particular game mode, and I just hope that they can get the netcode fixed in an appropriate time so we can have it ranked and get to the next level with this game. The second one I think that really needs to be focused on is, of course, co-op online. Right now, unless you have multiple machines that have MultiVersus, which you can do, but not every household is going to be able to do that, you're in a situation where you simply can't play with your friends. And that is a problem. People need to recognize that this kind of format, these platform fighters, a lot of times how people come into these games is you see people playing, you jump in, you play with them, right? And sometimes that could be at LAN, sometimes you're at home and a friend comes over and they want to play with you. Now, sometimes 1v1 is hard to bring people in, but when you can do it with a friend, like, hey, we can go and play against these people online, sure, why not? You can get something started. I know there's many times I've been wanting to do that myself. I've been wanting to do that with, when my girlfriend comes over, or kids come over, whatever it may be, and play the game, and I really can't do that, unless I set them up and on one system somewhere else and I'm in another room, and it just really cuts away from that experience. So I think that really needs to be changed. Of course, you do have mini games. Mini games I think will be great. As of right now, we just got this new stage with the Space Jam, and you already see semblance of a mini game. Looks like we may have a basketball mini game coming through. I think that'd be super fun. We've seen this in a ton of other platform fighters. I know Rivals has some really cool stuff, and you have mini games galore when it comes to Smash, right? So this stuff is huge, right? You want to have something that's really appealing and fun for the casual audience where you can just go sit back and cut loose. This game currently really doesn't have any of that. The biggest thing they have is free for all, but they don't have insane items. They don't have super insane crazy hazard stages, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then you don't have any of these kind of mini games. So I think this would be a really cool thing. Also too, even if there were some kind of thing, and this is not necessarily a mini game, but even having a kind of single player that is almost like a beat 'em up, I think is one of the big things that a fighting game should have. You're seeing it a bit more in some, it's either being put into tutorials. I mean, you have the kind of meek seek stuff that you saw tutorials in MultiVersus, was cool too. But I really think that stuff is great because it allows people to play, like unknowingly learn nuances of fighting games through beating them up. So I think that's something to look at. Next thing, having a appropriate co-op training mode. I think this is something that most games are trying to do a bit more. I think for a platform fighter would be big, especially in a game that's 2v2 focused. I find it odd that we don't have that both on the LAN side and on the online side. I think that would be really big. People can practice their team combos, they can practice with each other, etc. I mean, and a lot of this leads into just having an enhanced training mode. Right, being able to go ahead and like, hey, I'm gonna practice this stuff with a character who can actually do appropriate KBI, a character who can go ahead and do appropriate, like we can record stuff. I think this would go a very, very long way. And last but not least, of course, you do have arcade mode. And now I think this would be insane. Of course, we already know right now, by the time of this recording, it has not been released yet, but it should be out by the time this video actually drops. Black Adam in arcade mode, so I'm really hyped for that. Hopefully that'll be extremely fun, and I really do hope they have some insane AI going on, because that is a fighting game classic, and people usually get some good fun out of having to challenge some insane CPU. Like, give us some crazy Superman 1 million that just has these wild offstage combos and just bodies you if you're not careful, right? Something like that would be super dope, right? Or this insane trickster Rick that's just flying around the world and doing these nonsense things. The second thing I would love to see be better is netcode. I think that it just needs to be more consistent across the country. Having a better indicator system for the netcode, because right now the one that we have sucks. Essentially, if it's not 3 bars, everything doesn't matter because it's just dumb. And that needs to be changed. I think it needs to be more varied so we really know how good the netcode is at a certain point in time. And it needs to be consistent across country. You know, that's something that we're having a real struggle with, and people are getting upset about it, especially East Coast and West Coast. Then I think we need to look at frame delay. I think frame delay would be a big thing. I know the team is working on the game right now just to make sure this netcode is better in time for ranked and everything else. But please, if it's possible, let's get some frame delay in this. If I could set frame delay, we can make a consistent experience all throughout. We can run some of these tournaments better. We can just have run even custom games and stuff like that better with each other. And I think this would go a long way to really making sure that this game can be a consistent, insane, fun, loving experience online. But again, I know the team is working on the netcode, and I'm really excited to see what they're able to do in the time that they have. Now, patch culture. A lot of times people talk about patches, and it is something that they feel like, oh, they want to see patches all the time. I don't believe in that, and I think that we've seen some problems already start to arise from frequent patches. So one thing I would say is I think that we need to have minimal patches. I think that, you know, right now there's a lot of being fixes that are kind of knee-jerk reactions, and because of that, by the time they're tweaked, you will recognize, wait a minute, this wasn't as strong as we thought it was, or maybe this is needed, and we shouldn't do this. And so it's important to really give these characters time to breathe, right? Give the meta time to thrive for 2 months. We've seen this in MOBAs and other games where they give a bit more time for patches. Right now, there's been a lot of very quick knee-jerk reactions in these patches, and only for changes to be reverted or slightly altered or whatever it may be. I think there needs to be a better structure in that. I think that'll be helpful, and I think that it keeps the game in a bit more consistent space. Right now, things are just going up and down, up and down. You don't really know what's going on. I do think that also, too, when we're talking about patches, really, I think a greater focus on the hitbox and hurtbox interactions in this game would be really big. I think there's a ton of game moments I've seen in this game that have been super wonky, and some of it is rollback, and some of it is honestly just some of these hitbox interactions, and a lot of them make more sense once we figure it out. Pre the hurtbox patch, we recognize that some of these hurtboxes were just not designed the same way as these character models, right? So we're seeing a lot of things a bit more closer, but I think a lot of work still needs to be done here to make sure that these hitboxes make sense and that we can have a game that the hitboxes and the hurtboxes make sense aesthetically to the viewer, because right now a lot of them don't, and there's a lot of frustration around that as a competitor. Now, this ties into character changes. I think that a lot of people want to see characters thriving a bit more, but some of the characters that we've been seeing going up and down, like an Arya, right, for example, or like a Taz, has been because these characters have had a polarizing move that defines them. Too many characters have this, and it hasn't been addressed. It goes from change this thing to be strong, make it weak, make it strong, make it weak, and it's going to be very hard to balance a character when you have one point of contention, when it's either this move works and they're just busted beyond belief, and that move is just being abused day in, day out, pretty much spammed, or you go into a situation where that move doesn't really work anymore, and because the rest of the kit is mediocre at best, this character doesn't do anything. So it's okay to have a move as a core facet of the character, but right now it seems like these characters live and die by these said moves. So I think that having changes there would be very, very healthy for the game. Like Arya Stark, for example, that up special, make it a bit more KB growth, whereas combos early on, later percentage doesn't combo as much, and then make a lot more of her toolkit holistically better. Right, make her grounded normals better. I honestly would love to see her cancels be better. It's crazy that she has a lot of character-specific cancels that no one other character has in the game as of yet, and yet those cancels are pretty terrible. They're not that good, and I would love to see those things make her better. Like, imagine if she just had a really sick movement on the ground, like insane movement on the ground because of those things, right? Just so to make the character feel unique and fresh, and again, not be solely dependent on this up special in order to win games. Then, continuing to prove these characters holistically, I think that would be great. I think other than that, a lot of these characters are phenomenal. Toolkits are phenomenal. A lot of these characters are really, really, really fun to play. And for me personally, fun to play against. Some a little wonky. Some of the characters feel a little overtuned. But I think that when you're doing things holistically, you can pull back a little here, pull back a little there, and things feel better, right? Things can be okay. So please look into that. Number 5 is more uniform release schedule and character lists. Characters right now, that a lot of times we get characters that are teased, but they're not yet released. And then we get characters that are not teased, and it seems like they come out of nowhere. And I think that's going to be rough for people. We see even right now with Black Adam. Black Adam was recently delayed. By the time this recording, he'll probably be out already. One of the big things is I would just love for these characters, if you need extra time, PFG, please. You guys are working so hard consistently to fix this game day in and day out. It's going to be hard to hit some of these deadlines, and I think that it's okay if you need to have the extra time. What makes it rough is when you say you're going to hit a deadline and then you don't, right? Because then people may be taking time off to make content for it, or people take time just to play this character because they're really excited, it's their favorite character, and it becomes a huge disappointment all around. And it also becomes it lessens the overall effect of your announcements, right? If they don't have these announcements going on, then people are just like, oh, I don't know what's going on, now what's going to happen, and it sucks. So that's a big thing. Also, too, I think that in terms of iconic IPs, there needs to be more of a proper cadence for that. I really look at, when you look at the first characters that kind of came out, we had Taz, Iron Giant, and LeBron James. Extremely iconic characters. A lot of these characters are timeless, right? And then you have LeBron James. It's just like, it's freaking LeBron James. The releases were pretty terrible, right? There weren't any real character trailers yet. Stuff was just released on Twitter and high fives all around for some reason, which was weird. And to put in context, like, look, you have a ton of platform fighters where releasing character is a huge thing. This is like a revival of the game, right? It gets people super focused. People define whether they're going to pick up a game or not these days sometimes because of these crazy characters that enter in the game. And I think with the amount of IPs that this game has, there really needs to be a balance of when these characters are going to be dropped. Right? The fact of the matter is, you had LeBron James, and he was essentially put out in a tweet and put out in a little stuff in Comic-Con, which was not really what should have happened. We're seeing some better stuff happen now. At least getting a Twitch stream, which is great, thank goodness. And I know that's being constantly improved every time, so that's good to see. You're seeing character trailers pop out. You're seeing a bit more things happen, even for for Gizmo and for Stripe, you know. I love to see more of that. But also, too, please balance it out with iconic IPs, because you're getting in a problem where you're having some characters that are like too fixed on the quote unquote boomers or something characters, right? Like Gremlins. And then it's like you have the Redditor era, freaking Rick and Morty and kind of things, and you're having these characters that are kind of a little bit more fringe, you know, and at a time right now we're really like leaning into some of these more iconic characters can get people more invested in the game, continued investment out of the initial boom, and really get people to love the game they see. So I think that's something to really, really look at. I could see a play where maybe they're going to kind of hold on to the characters until they feel that the game's in a better place too, but you want to keep the core audience interested, so keep that in mind. Please continue the Twitch streams, continue the character trailers. These are needed. This is huge, man. Nintendo, with all the IPs and all the crazy stuff they have, man, like they have all these insane games, and people would literally be like, hey, a Nintendo Direct? Why? Because I need a character to be dropped, right? Like, gotta take this stuff seriously. People want this stuff. This is what people live for. People pop off just to see some of these characters released. So take your work seriously. Know that people want to see great stuff. Going into number 6 is the gameplay. Gameplay is something where I think this game is extremely fun. It's one of the few games I play right now that I have time to play, and I love it. I do have some grievances, however, but again, this is kind of just My personal opinion here, so take this with a grain of salt, but maybe this stuff will work. Maybe this will resonate with some of the people watching. 1v1, I do believe that should be 3 points instead of 2. I think maybe you keep it 2 for casual. Maybe when you go into ranked, it's the 3 points. We've seen it in LAN. It works out really well that way. I think that's probably the best place to go as far as 1v1. Then you have a gap in the gameplay has been the defensive side. You have, of course, dodging from the dashes, and people can dodge all day. And that's kind of rough, right? But then you still get this thing where this game is so fast and moves still don't have enough lag to be whiff punished. And you get this weird dance where everyone's just kind of weaving around, just throwing out the same attack over and over again until they can land a hit, right? Until they can get into a advantage state where they can start to use their other tools. And that, to me, diminishes a lot of the beauty of the game. So I would love to see something like a potential parry mechanic. Ideally, I think that it's something that could be done with the neutral dodge already. Obviously, you have that dodge mechanic that pops up once you do that perfectly timed. I think that would be great. Instead, to make that a parry system, add some hit lag, essentially when that parry mechanic happens. And it allows there to be a more concrete RPS in the game. I think right now it's kind of missing that, and because we're getting this weird paper scissors, like it's just very just weird treatment right now, and so I would love to see that. Then going into this, I think that this game is still hard to follow on 2v2, and especially for the average viewer, right? This is what I like to call the Overwatch problem. I think that in order to solve this, you kind of have to do what Overwatch has been trying to do in terms of Overwatch 2, where it's like maybe greater visual cues for skills. I think that slight hit lag or hit pause would be great. Honestly, hit pause would be awesome in the game for strong moves, so people can feel the weight, people can understand, like, oh man, look at that move, right? It's just very good for the eye. Allows you to really focus in on what's happening there when you have that kind of hit pause. I think even for certain moves, maybe there's certain hit spark or something that happens for specials, so it's more clear when a special is being used. I think that'd be great. Make it more clear that someone got hit hard, etc. Then hurtboxes I've talked a bit about before, even iframes. I think that there needs to be, like, if there's something that has iframes, maybe there's like some color that flashes. Blue tends to be one, or a flash of white tends to be one that's used in other games. I think some of these disjoints need to be looked at in this game too. Some of these hurt boxes extend too far for some, even like for jabs and different things there. They're not in the right place. Like they extend as someone is jabbing, which is kind of like, it's weird, and then it lasts out there too. Like, I just think those things need to be fixed. The hitbox interactions in this game have been plaguing it a lot. So looking at that and tightening that up will go a long way. Then last but not least, I believe that there needs to be more traditional competitive platform fighter stages and more just straight casual stages. There's been a weird push to make some of these casual style stages competitive. I'm talking about like Tree Fort. I'm talking about Scooby and Trophy's Edge 2 that literally just covered in its entirety by Iron Giant when you're on a spot where you can actually fight, and it's just a scramble, and it just is not, it's super degenerate. I think something that people need to recognize that while there is strategy in play when it comes to these unique stages, those aren't the strategies that people overall are looking to test in that kind of competition, especially in a fighting game. The best way I can have an analogy for this is that we are doing a frisbee toss, right? That is what's being tested here. But also, by the way, in order to start your frisbee toss, or in order for you to make 2 turns rather than 3, you have to answer a mathematical problem, right? I'm gonna give you a limit problem, and if you cannot solve this here, then guess what? Then you can only turn like 2 times versus 3. And that is just silly, because guess what? Math is it's a very quality, very amazing skill. It's not what we're looking to test right now. And that is the problem with adding all these weird hazards and all these kind of things. It has to be something that is going to elevate the gameplay versus detract. And there's a lot of them that simply detract. Also, a lot of them encourage very slow down gameplay. It encourages people just to camp out, and best believe when there's a lot of money on the line, which there will be for a lot of things, at least from what we're seeing right now, we're privy to, then you don't want to have that, man, because people aren't going to have fun, and definitely you're not going to have fun watching your game when people are just slowing down and they're not really trying to interact, because that's the optimal way to play around a lot of these kind of hazards, right? So I think that needs to be kept in mind. I think the idea of having fun, casual stages is really cool, and I think that needs to be done, but I think there needs to be a more definitive casual, let's just freaking go ham and make something fun and stupid that people just want to play. Please do that. I think that is the optimal way to go around a lot of these stages right now, and I think the people will thank you for it, and it will add more proper content for the game, because right now the hazards are not fun enough for you to want to play that as a fun, interesting, relaxing mode, and they're also degenerate in competitive play. So you're trying to solve both in the same time, and it's not working out. Last but not least is tournament play. Tournament play, we're going to run through this one very quickly, but I cannot stress how important this is. Control optimization needs to happen for this game. That no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have so many people, especially when you're pulling from a lot of people in the Brawlhalla camp. You know these people are playing keyboards. Make it sure that these people have that capability and they're able to play their game. I know stuff has been worked on there, still needs to be pushed to be better. I think a greater UI temporarily for LAN and spectator mode needs to be done. I'm sure that stuff is on the horizon in terms of the final, what it should look like in the final build of the game. To be quite frank, I don't think it's smart to wait all that time. I think have some temporary upgrade of the current LAN and current spectator mode, and then let it rock so people can go and play the game and do content on it and do tournaments on it. Plain and simple. I think that it will just go ahead and make the game more appealing for competitors and new viewers, and that's something that is needed right now. Then we go into name profiles for controls and perks on LAN. I think that's easy, makes it very turnkey to do these tournaments, makes it easier for people to kind of go up to their setups, then they can go and change the perks when they need to, right? Just dependent on matchups they're doing. But a lot of times people have their standard kit and then they do stuff based on, counter picking perks, right? So doing that alleviates a lot of stuff. It saves a lot of time, because right now, best believe you need to find a way to save time, because LAN in this system right now takes way too much to get in the game. Sometimes it's funny because the game will go quicker than what it took for me to get in the game, and that's always a very weird feeling. Hopefully that stuff can be changed. And last but not least, as said, this is extremely important. Please empower the scene so they can make content and build. Every great game, every great esport is built from grassroots going up. It's always been that way. You need the scene to be able to thrive on its own. Then you can come back in and do something. We've seen games that have tried to do it all in-house. Overwatch did that, completely failed. Even for you're looking back at these kind of earlier games and these titles, right, that eventually were like mods from certain games, right, like Dota, even like kind of Counter-Strike and how it came to be, and then mods on that, right? These are the things that you need to have, and it starts with the grassroots. You need to empower them so they can make your game look good, so they can build a scene, build a storyline as you continue to develop the game itself, and that is a more sufficient, harmonious, symbiotic relationship that you want to have for your game. So that about wraps it up. Those are the 7 things that I believe that MultiVersus needs to be the best game it can be. Look, I'm gonna say it time and time again. This game is extremely fun. Its movement is fluid to me. I love it. The character toolkits are pretty damn incredible too. Really, really fun to play. I think there's just a little tweaks. I think that this game is definitely a diamond in the rough. And if these tweaks or some semblance of this stuff can be done, I do believe this game can be the next big platform fighter, and it will go the next level. And I would really love to see that. I mean, this team works so hard, and I want to see them thrive. So, hey, these are my thoughts. Hope you guys like this. Please go ahead and feel free to follow, and subscribe. Click the bell icon and all that jazz. But I would love to hear from you guys. What are the things that you would love to see in this game to push it to the next level? Do you think I was on point with these? points of contention here? Do you think it's trash? You think, bam, hey, shut up, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, And also, why not let me know what character you guys would also want to see in this game? Because I know people want to see some sick-ass characters, right? So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. And last but not least, class dismissed. I'll see you guys next time.